They showed up at my door like we'd all just seen each other last week. Carla standing dead center, wearing those giant sunglasses like she was trying to channel Hollywood, flanked by Aunt Deb and Uncle Mike. No text, no warning, just bold as hell, ringing the bell to my coastal house like they belonged here. My name's Anaya. I'm 36. I live in a glass and stone modern home on the Oregon coast. Built it from the ground up, both literally and financially. I own 4 properties. I run a publishing business that's mine alone. And for the last 15 years, not a single one of them ever invited me to so much as a barbecue. Quick note, before we start, how's your day going and where are you joining from? They weren't just strangers. They were ghosts that had voted me out of the family a long time ago. After my mom passed, they scattered like I was contagious. No calls, no cards, no, how are you holding up? I stopped reaching out after year 2. Didn't even get a damn Facebook like when I published my first book. Carla stepped in close, tilting her head, eyeing the driveway like it smelled off. So, this place is gorgeous, she said, stretching out the word like taffy. You renting it for the summer, I smiled. Not wide, just enough to let her know I clocked it. Nope, I live here year-round, I said, unlocking the front door. Come in. Deb gave me that tight church smile like she was pretending not to notice the silence. Mike avoided eye contact altogether. I stepped aside and let them in, watching their eyes dart across the entry. The high ceilings, the soft white walls, the custom lighting. Not a speck of clutter. Everything I'd worked for lined the hall in calm, deliberate elegance. Carla's heels clicked on the floor like she owned the place. She paused by the console table, eyeing the framed cover of my second novel like it might bite her. I didn't realize you were still writing, she said. I never stopped. They didn't say anything to that, just kept walking in like they were still deciding if this was real or some weird Airbnb scam. But me, I was calm, not angry, not begging for recognition. I'd buried that part of me years ago. The version of myself they were about to meet? She didn't need to be seen. She already knew her worth. Carla walked ahead like she was touring a damn museum. Her eyes flicked from the walnut paneling to the floating staircase, like she was trying to find something fake to latch onto. Aunt Deb trailed behind her, clutching her purse like the furniture might jump. Mike didn't say a word, just kept staring like his brain was buffering. They hit the living room and stalled. That room always had that effect. Wide open windows faced the ocean, the light bouncing off the stone fireplace and settling on the oversized white sectional. Everything in it had been handpicked. No clutter, no noise, no extra anything. Clean lines, soft earth tones, and silence. Carla finally spoke, lips tight. Wow, it's very minimalist, I shrugged. It's how I like to live. Right, of course, she said. Just looks like, I don't know, maybe a designer helped? It's all very coordinated. I designed it myself, I said, walking past her. Every room, every finish. Same with the other 3 homes. Aunt Deb blinked. Other homes? Yeah, I said, motioning them toward the hallway. 1 in Sedona, 1 in Charleston, and a small cabin I rent out in Vermont. Their feet shuffled. The hallway led into the library, open shelves built into both sides, warm light washing over hardcovers and literary awards. I watched Carla scan the plaques. She leaned in toward one. The Sullivan Prize? Mm-hmm. National Book Award finalists over there, behind you. Deb touched one of the frames like it might melt. I didn't know you were that kind of writer. I gave a small smile. Yeah, most people don't. But the books paid for the drywall, and the editors paid for the tile. They didn't laugh. They didn't even fake it. We kept walking. The next room had a wall of framed photos, some professional, some personal. Me shaking hands with 2 governors, a photo op with a best-selling author most people have heard of, a few candid shots at industry events. I didn't bother explaining. If they didn't recognize the faces, they weren't meant to. Carla's mouth opened, then shut. Her eyes narrowed at a photo of me giving a keynote at a university. You travel for work too, she asked, trying to sound casual. I nodded. About 10 months a year, speaking, panels, mentorship programs. I keep busy. They didn't respond, just kept walking, slower now. It was the silence that told me everything. No, we're proud of you. No, you've done well. Just tight lips and darting eyes like they were searching for something familiar and coming up empty. Mike cleared his throat finally. Looks expensive to run all this. It is, I said, not offering more. That's why I built it smart. They passed a framed magazine cover with me on it. Carla lingered for a second, then turned away like it stung. You don't miss the city? Deb asked. I was never really in it, I said. And I don't miss places I was never invited to. That shut them up. We rounded into the kitchen, clean white marble, brass fixtures, and a glass wall that opened straight to the patio and ocean view. Not a word from any of them. Just the sound of the waves in the distance and the quiet weight of everything unspoken. They didn't know where to look. Every corner of that house said, I did this without you. And every second that passed said, you can't ignore it now. I leaned against the counter, letting them take it all in, letting the silence work for me. Want something to drink? I asked. Deb shook her head quickly. Carla forced a smile. We're good, just, wow, it's a lot. Yeah, I said. It is. They didn't ask how, they didn't ask when. I realized right then they weren't looking for a conversation. They were looking for a loophole, some way to explain all of this without admitting they missed the whole damn story. I walked to the dining room and pulled out a chair. Come sit, I said. We'll eat soon. And just like that, they followed, still polite, still pretending. But I saw it in every stiff shoulder and faked smile. They weren't in control anymore. I pulled out one of the chairs and motioned to the others. The table was already set. Slate boards with small appetizers. Everything laid out in careful lines. Prosciutto, olives, whipped goat cheese, Marcona almonds. Wines already opened. Glasses catching the afternoon light. I'd planned it that way. Not to impress them, to disarm them. Carla sat across from me, eyes darting toward the food. She reached toward a crostini, fingers almost on it. Wait, I said, calm but firm. Let's play something first. Her hand froze mid-air. Deb and Mike looked confused. I folded my arms. Memory game, I said. Simple rules. Each of you, just tell me the last time you invited me to anything. Could be a birthday, a holiday, a cookout. Anything. Carla leaned back. What? You heard me. Take your time. Deb fiddled with the edge of her napkin. Mike looked down at his plate like it might have answers. Carla gave a soft laugh, trying to lighten it. Well, it's been, a long time. Life gets crazy. Sure, I said. 15 years crazy. Mike spoke up, voice lower than usual. Look, things got weird after your mom passed. You were different, hard to talk to. I locked eyes with him. I buried my mother and still showed up, still texted, still sent gifts to people who didn't send anything back. Deb shifted in her seat. We didn't mean to. You didn't have to mean it, I cut in. You just had to do it, or not do it, which you didn't. Carla crossed her arms, defensive now. We thought you needed space. I needed support, I said. Not silence. She looked away. I could feel the air tightening between us, like the walls had leaned in a little. Do you know how many holidays I spent sitting at my own table, hoping maybe this year one of you would call? I asked, voice steady. I sent invites, posted updates. You just pretended I didn't exist. Mike shook his head. No one pretended. Really? I asked. Then name one time, just one thing I was part of. No one answered. I picked up a glass of water, took a sip, and set it back down slowly. You ever stop and wonder why I never showed up angry? Why I didn't blow up your phones or come knocking on your door? I asked. Because I kept thinking maybe next time, maybe the next baby shower, the next Thanksgiving. Deb's lips parted, like she wanted to say something, but nothing came out. I kept giving chances, I said, even when I knew better. Carla looked down. The food sat untouched, perfect, and cold. I wasn't hard to talk to, I said. I was just inconvenient. No one argued. No one disagreed. Just shifting eyes and tense jaws. That's when I knew they weren't shocked at what I was saying. They were shocked I was finally saying it out loud. I leaned back in my chair and gestured toward the food. Now you can eat. Carla hesitated for a second, then reached again, slower this time. They all followed, silent and stiff, chewing without speaking. I let the silence stretch. I wanted them to sit in it, the same way I had year after year. They didn't get warmth. They got the truth. And the truth didn't come with a smile. I stood up without a word and walked to the cabinet in the corner of the dining room. The table was quiet except for the small clinks of forks against ceramic. I reached into the bottom drawer, pulled out the thick blue leather album, and carried it back. They watched me set it on the table like I'd just laid down a weapon. "I pulled this out yesterday," I said, flipping it open. "Figured if we were going to play memory games, we might as well use some visual aids." The first page had pictures from Grandma's 85th. Everyone smiling in Deb's backyard. Balloons, matching shirts. The whole family crammed together. Everyone but me. "That was what, 8 years ago?" I asked. "Funny, I was in Portland that weekend. Would have made the drive." Deb pressed her lips together, staring at the page like it was a trick. I flipped to the next one. A wedding. Carla's sister. Bridesmaids in peach, Uncle Mike giving a toast. "Didn't even get a save the date for this one," I said, dragging a finger along the corner. "Didn't know it happened until someone posted it with the caption, 'All the family together again.'" No one spoke. No one even reached for their wine. I turned a few more pages. Baby showers, graduations, a beach trip I never knew existed. My own mother's side of the family, all smiling like I'd never been born. Then I stopped on the reunion photo. Picnic tables, lawn games, folding chairs. Dozens of them posed under that ugly banner that said, "Family Forever." 5 years ago, I said. You all met up at Wayland Park. Burgers, potato salad, that whole setup. I tapped the corner of the picture. I lived 30 minutes away. I was free that weekend. No one called. Mike's jaw flexed. Carla swallowed hard. Deb wouldn't look up. "I didn't move across the country. I didn't change my number. I was here," I said. "I didn't disappear. I was erased." The room held still. No protests, no fake confusion, just silence. "I used to flip through this album and make excuses for all of you," I said. "Thought maybe the invite got lost. Maybe someone forgot I changed emails. But after the 10th photo, after the 15th, I shut the album gently. I stopped lying for you." Deb opened her mouth but closed it again just as fast. Carla had her hands in her lap now, fingers tight. Mike shifted back in his chair like he suddenly couldn't find a comfortable position. "I never stopped being family," I said. "You just stopped treating me like one. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't have to." My calm said more than yelling ever could. That album had done the talking for me. Page after page of proof. They weren't confused. They weren't caught off guard. They were exposed. I let the silence sit there, heavy and earned. Let it stretch long enough to match the years I'd been left out. Then I stood up and pushed the album slightly toward the center of the table. "You can keep flipping if you want. There's plenty more." They didn't touch it. I walked back to the cabinet, this time reaching into the top drawer, pulled out the small black velvet box, and carried it to the table. I set it down in the center, right on top of the closed photo album. Nobody moved. "You can open it," I said, sitting back down. "It's for you." Carla was the one who finally reached out. She lifted the lid slowly, like it might snap shut on her fingers. Inside were 3 cream envelopes, thick, sealed, each one with their name written in my handwriting. Carla, Deb, Mike. I let them sit with that for a second before I said anything. "Inside each is just one sentence," I said. "Something each of you said to me. Something small, but permanent." They looked at each other. No one made a move. "Go ahead." Carla picked hers up first and tore it open. She unfolded the card. Her eyes scanned it, then stopped. She didn't read it out loud. She didn't have to. She just blinked and put the card down, face up. "You're not really worth the drive, Anea." Silence. Deb picked up hers next. She opened it with a shaky hand. I watched her eyes scan, then widen. She laid hers down too. "It's better if you don't come. It's just going to be weird." Mike moved slower. His hands were steady, but his face was stiff. He pulled out the card and laid it down after a beat. "She's too sensitive. She'll just make it about herself." No one said anything. "That's when I stopped trying," I said quietly. Not after the first time, not after the second, but after those moments, those exact ones, I realized I wasn't just being forgotten. I was being shut out. Carla didn't lift her eyes. Her hands were in her lap again, tight. "I wrote those down right after they happened," I said. Not because I wanted to hold a grudge. I just didn't want to gaslight myself into thinking it didn't happen. Deb looked down at her lap, then back at the table. I don't even remember saying that. I do, I said. Word for word. Mike leaned back, arms crossed now, but he didn't argue, didn't roll his eyes. The words sat between them like they'd come from a stranger, not their own mouths. This isn't revenge, I said. I'm not looking for apologies. This meeting, this is for me. This is closure. They stayed quiet. Maybe they didn't know what closure looked like. Maybe they thought it was supposed to come with hugs and tears. I didn't. I just needed you to see it, to know I didn't disappear into thin air. I kept every door open until you shut them, one by one. Carla finally spoke, her voice low. You held on to all this? I nodded. I held on to myself. That's all I had left. No one defended themselves. No fake excuses. No outrage. Just the sound of truth sitting heavy in the space they used to occupy. I stood and took the velvet box back in my hands. I don't need anything from you. And then I turned and walked the box back to its drawer. I closed the drawer and turned around. The three of them were still sitting at the table, like they didn't know whether to get up or wait for more. Deb finally broke the silence. This was never about hurting you, Anaya, she said, her voice clipped. We came here with good intentions. I raised an eyebrow. Did you? She sat up straighter, like she was gearing up to flip the whole thing. You planned all this, she said. The food, the house tour, the little envelopes. It's not about closure. It's about making us feel like garbage. I walked back to the table, slow and steady. No, I said. It's not about making you feel anything. It's about making myself feel free. Deb shook her head. Feels like a performance. I tilted my head. To who? There's no audience. Just the three people who erased me from every photo, every event, every holiday. Carla looked like she wanted to disappear. I leaned both hands on the table, not aggressive, just grounded. I'm not trying to be better than you, I said. That was never the point. I don't need applause. I needed the silence to stop echoing like I imagined it wrong. Mike exhaled loudly. This whole thing, it's too theatrical. You're dragging it out. I looked right at him. You think this is dramatic? He gave a little shrug. Kind of. I nodded slowly. You know what's theatrical, Mike? Saying we should catch up sometime, while skipping every chance to actually do it. Smiling in group photos while pretending I don't exist. Acting like grief made me impossible when it was your discomfort you couldn't handle. He looked away. I'm not performing, I said. I'm finalizing the chapter. You walked through my house. You saw what I built without a single call from any of you. This isn't a show. This is the last page. Deb leaned back, arms crossed tight. You always were intense. I smiled. No. I just stopped letting people decide what parts of me were acceptable. No one responded. I sat back down in my chair, calm again. The power wasn't in the yelling. It was in the fact that I didn't need them to understand anymore. You don't have to like how I did it, I said. But you don't get to rewrite it. Carla stayed quiet, eyes fixed on a spot on the table. I didn't bring you here to argue, I said. I brought you here to witness. That's all. They didn't move. No more protests. No more excuses. Just the sound of the clock ticking above the mantel and the sea wind pushing faint against the glass. Whatever they thought this day was supposed to be. It wasn't that anymore. I stood and pushed my chair back with a slow scrape against the floor. Nobody asked if we were done. Nobody needed to. I walked toward the foyer, steps steady. And they followed behind like they weren't sure if they should be looking at the furniture or the ground. No one said thank you. No one complimented the food. I reached the front door and paused with my hand on the knob. The ocean breeze seeped in faint through the frame. Sharp and cool, just like I liked it. Carla's voice finally broke the silence. So that's it? She asked. You really don't want us here? I turned around slowly. Her face wasn't smug anymore. It was tight, unsure. I looked her straight in the eye. I didn't bring you here because I missed you. She flinched a little. I kept going. I brought you here so you could see what I became without you. Deb sucked in a breath. Mike didn't say a word. I wanted you to walk through the house you never asked about. See the life you never checked in on. Feel the version of me you left behind show up anyway. I turned and opened the door. The coastal air rushed in, crisp and salty. The same air I'd breathed while building this life piece by piece. No one moved at first. Then Carla stepped forward, slow and stiff. She walked past me without a word. Deb followed, clutching her purse a little tighter. Mike was last, eyes low, steps heavy. No one hugged. No one said, "Let's talk soon." Just silence. I stood at the door as they walked down the path, toward the car they probably thought I couldn't afford a decade ago. I watched them go, the gravel crunching under their shoes. Same driveway I shoveled with my own hands before the contractors ever poured the stone. They reached the car. No one looked back. I stayed right there, hands still on the open door, watching the very people who once told me I'd never make it without a support system walk away from the one they chose not to be part of. I remembered their words. Family always comes through. We'd never leave you alone. We're all you've got now. And I remembered the birthdays they missed, the voicemail that never got returned, the empty chair at my book launch, second row, reserved for family. They didn't get to rewrite that. They got to leave, and I got to watch, not bitter, not broken, just done. I shut the door quietly behind me. I walked back into the kitchen, every room in the house suddenly louder in its quiet. The fridge hummed. A branch scratched the side window, but mostly it was just still. I grabbed a legal pad and a pen from the drawer near the sink, carried them to the coffee table, and sat cross-legged on the floor. There were no speeches left to give, just one last thing I needed to get out of me. I started writing, not a letter to any of them, not Carla, not Deb, not Mike. This was for the version of me who waited every single birthday for a message that never came, the one who set the table for holidays just in case someone showed up. I wrote fast, not pretty. I didn't care how it sounded. I wrote about the first Christmas without Mom, when I sent out 8 invites and got 1 maybe. I wrote about how I used to scroll through family posts and crop myself out in my own head. Like if I did it first, it would hurt less. I wrote that I didn't build this house to make them jealous. I built it because I needed something solid when everything else went cold. I built my life to survive them, not spite them, and I did. I stopped writing when the page was full. Then I folded the sheet once, then again, took it out to the patio, and grabbed the little fire bowl I kept next to the lounge chairs. The wind off the sea was soft now, gentle. I struck a match, held the flame to the paper, and watched it catch. The fire crawled up the fold first, then devoured the middle. The ink bled into itself, curling black. I didn't cry, not even a little. I just sat there with it until it was all gone. Every word, every loop of every letter, turned to ash. That night, I stepped out onto the balcony barefoot. The moon lit up the water like silver bruises. Waves rolled slow, like the ocean had taken a deep breath. I rested my arms on the railing, let the salt air hit my face, and stood there. Not waiting for headlights in the driveway, not checking my phone, not listening for someone to knock. For the first time, I wasn't reaching for anyone. I felt full. Not because I won, not because I made a point, because I was still standing. And I knew exactly who built the ground beneath me. The sun was just starting to break over the water when my phone buzzed. I was still in bed, still wrapped in the stillness from the night before. I reached over, expecting junk mail or a news alert. It was Carla. You were right. But it's probably too late now, isn't it? I stared at it for a long minute. Then I set the phone down, face down on the nightstand. Not out of anger, not to punish her. I just didn't owe her an answer anymore. Later that morning, I found a package leaning against the front door. No name on the box, just my address in neat handwriting. I brought it inside, sliced it open with the house key. Inside was a single photo frame, wrapped in tissue. It was a picture I hadn't seen in years. Me and my mom, sitting on the back porch of our old house. I was maybe 6, grinning with 2 missing front teeth. Her arm was wrapped around me, eyes squinting into the sun like she was holding the whole world and didn't even realize it. Tucked behind the frame was a note, small and simple. She'd be proud. No signature, but I knew Deb's handwriting. I sat on the floor, holding the photo in both hands. I didn't cry. I just nodded once, slowly. Yeah, she would be. That evening, I stepped outside barefoot, walking straight through the soft grass and across the sand. The breeze was cooler than usual, the kind that wakes you up instead of making you shiver. I stood at the edge where the waves met the shore. the water wrapping around my ankles like it had been waiting for me. I didn't think about Carla, or Deb, or Mike. I didn't think about who would text next or who wouldn't.